Yo, what up? How you guys doing out there today? This is your boy Roto Beast. I'm here with my boy Jeremy. We're here to break down today's NFL Week 5 Monday Showdown slate. If you're new to this channel, please make sure and click the subscribe button below. This way you can watch all of our NFL, NBA, and MLB videos. And if you haven't came and check out our website here at dfscheatsheet.com, you're absolutely missing out. We have all the tools to help you compete with the pros day in and day out, including a complete optimizer, tons of content, daily FanDuel and DraftKings cash signups. Hey, we're truly a one-stop shop for our DFS needs. So make sure to come check out the site here at dfscheatsheet.com. So hey, what up? How you doing out there, bro?
What's up, man? It's Monday. Hey, another great weekend though, right? Cash lineup 5-0.
5-0 this with the cash lines. Things have been going very, very well to start the NFL season. And we actually got a pretty fun game today. We got I think tonight's gonna be it's gonna be a fun game. I think there's gonna be some points that's gonna be scored today. And I'm ready to jump in and break down this game.
Cool, let's get it.
All right, for sure. So, I mean, we'll start at quarterbacks, and we'll just kind of work our way through the positions. So, I mean, who you feeling more tonight, Baker Mayfield or Jimmy Garoppolo?
Hey man, I mean, here's the crazy thing about it, right? You take a look at this game, and to me, these teams are kind of a mirror of each other, right? They're young teams. They've both got some weapons on the offensive side of the ball. Both of these defenses have some really good playmakers on it. Both have good front defensive lines with some good linebackers and a young secondary. So, hey, have you heard the rumor about Eric Berry signing with this Cleveland Browns team?
I didn't hear about that. No.
So there's a rumor out there that they're pursuing Eric Berry. I mean, Eric Berry no longer with the Chiefs as a free agent. That they're pursuing Eric Berry to add him to this defensive secondary. I mean, if they were to sign an Eric Berry to the secondary, this would really, really make this an elite defense, in my opinion.
So my question is, why is Eric Berry not even on a team? Like, that dude, he's a top five safety in the league.
Yeah, that is a really good question, and that's one that I don't have an answer to.
Yeah, because I mean, Eric Berry's beast, bro, for sure. So yeah, I mean, what's your thoughts on the two quarterbacks?
I mean, look, I like both these guys tonight. I think they've both got a lot of weapons, and I think that the game plan is the same, right? I mean, if you make it tough on on each quarterback, then kind of make them one dimensional, make them run the football, and let the front seven for each of these defenses go to work, if you will. So, I think both quarterbacks are in play. I don't know if both quarterbacks um, are MVP spots because I think that both these quarterbacks, unlike Russell Wilson on the Thursday night game, I think both these quarterbacks are dependent upon the weapons around them for them to have a good game. They've got to distribute the football to their weapons. And I think that you look to have possibly a George Kittle or a Odell Beckham Jr. Or even a Jarvis Landry or Nick Chubb. Those guys are the guys that I would look for the captain spot. I think both these quarterbacks are flex play, and I think that for me, a lot of my builds, I'm putting both of them in my lineups because the pricing's so good.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you. It's tough. I was like going back and forth, and I'm like, which quarterback do I like more? And you're right. I mean, there's not Deshaun Watson or a Russell Wilson, a quarterback that puts up big time numbers every week. They're more kind of they just game manage type situations on the goal line. They're going to look to hand the ball off. So I feel like that's really kind of why their touchdowns have been down a little bit this year. Both of them, not having so many throwing touchdowns. They have balanced offenses.
The
Yeah,
crazy thing here is this, right? So let's just break it down for where we're at in the season, right? The 49ers give up 246 passing yards per game. They've given up 738 pass yards in 3 games. They've given up 525 rush yards in 3 games. It's 175 yards a game rushing. You look at Cleveland, 265.3 through the air and 115 on the ground. So, it seems to me that if you're going to give an edge to one of the quarterbacks, you probably give the edge to Garoppolo, given the fact that the 49ers Garoppolo is probably the better quarterback suited to throw the football a little bit more, distribute it to George Kittle, distribute it to Goodwin and these guys. They like to use the running backs out of the backfield. And I think for the Browns, you focus more on Chubb.
right. Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, with that, we'll kind of move to running backs. I mean, obviously, Nick Chubb is an obvious play today. You definitely want to get a bunch of exposure to him. He's a workhorse, that they're really dependent on him, like you said. So obviously, I like Nick Chubb. I think you could put him in, your captain spot in some lineups. But at the same time, like we always talk about it, everybody's going to put Nick Chubb in their captain spot tonight, in their MVP spot, coming off a monster game where he had 3 touchdowns against Baltimore. So obviously Nick Chubb is a guy that we want to have in our lineups, but we continue to talk about it. We got to differentiate ourselves a little bit. So I don't know. I mean, obviously, yes, we want him in our captain spot, but we got to figure out how to kind of make ourselves different from others. I know you've had a couple of really good showdown, lineups already, but we're continuing to split over and over and over. And that's what happens with the one-game slate. Nick Chubb's going to probably come in like 80% owned today. So, I mean, he's the obvious.
And rightfully so. I mean, you take a look at the season totals, and he's got 78 carries for 398 yards, right? A monster game against Baltimore previously. And then you flip that and compare it to the 49ers. Breida has 41 carries. Raheem Morset has 34. Jeff Wilson has 18. Jeff Wilson seems to be the guy with the 4 touchdowns that's going to get the ball in the red area. Jeff Wilson's price on FanDuel is very, very cheap. In fact, a lot of these 49ers are very, very cheap, which leads me to believe that FanDuel may be thinking that the Browns will be the chalk and the 49ers will be maybe the little bit lower owned team. I think that there's a lot of weapons, and it really yields for some really interesting builds because you can put a Chubb, a Breida, and maybe a Wilson in your lineup and maybe differentiate yourself by thinking, I'll build a couple of lineups where I'll put Jeff Wilson in my captain spot, thinking that maybe he scores 2 touchdowns tonight, or maybe he has the Aaron Jones type rushing game like Aaron Jones had against the Cowboys yesterday, where he got goal line carries on 3 different occasions, resulting in 4 touchdowns, right? So it really yields some very unique ways you can build tonight. I don't think we'll see a chop pot tonight because of the pricing for one. I mean, you look at a guy like George Kittle at 11,000. You look at the 49ers, I've said week in and week out at the wide receiver spot, they think Deebo Samuel's their number 1 wide receiver. He's only 8,000 to get their number 1 wide receiver, right? So I think tonight is that night where Nick Chubb stands alone at the running back spot. But because of the way that the 49ers have been somewhat predictable and how they've distributed their carries, I think you can use a guy like Jeff Wilson. And what does that do? It allows you to put some higher priced guys in your lineup and kind of load up. So, I just think that it's.
No, you're okay. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. One thing I just wanted to quickly say while we're talking about the running backs, it is also looking like Tevin Coleman is going to come back tonight, and he's going to get some carries as well. So that's 4 running backs for the 49ers that possibly can all get some work today. So I don't really know what to do with the 49ers running backs, to be honest with you. But I did want to throw out there that Tevin Coleman is expected to be back tonight as well.
He could. We'll have to wait and see what happens. Hey, look, there was a couple of guys that we thought were going to be active last week and ended up being inactive, mainly Melvin Gordon, and didn't make his appearance until this past weekend. And then there was a couple of guys this weekend like Sam Darnold, who looked like they practiced all week, were going to play and ultimately were held out. So we'll have to wait and see. Remember, the NFL rule mandates that all active, inactive players are listed 1.5 hours prior to kickoff. So that's where you're going to want to see, is Coleman active? Is he not active? It's another guy at 8,000 that I wouldn't think would go in and get 15 or 20 carries. He'd probably go in and get maybe 12 touches overall, be involved in the third down game a little bit, get some first down carries, etc. But to me, though, I would caution the use of a 49er running back, and I definitely wouldn't use a 49er running back in my captain spot unless it was a guy like I was going to take a chance with a Jeff Wilson and maybe he gets a goal line carries, because that's the one thing they've shown. He's going to get his carries. I mean, look at it. 18 carries, 52 yards. He's the only player with a rushing touchdown. The longest run he's had is 14 yards. His average yards per carry is 2.9. So, he's going to get some goal line carries. They're telling you that. So, if they find themselves in that spot, that's the one guy I may take a chance with in a captain spot. The rest of these guys are for exposure, for being different and not a major, they're flex plays.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely agree. Moving on to the wide receivers. I mean, obviously, there's, you got Odell Beckham's going to be crazy high owned, on this slate. He's the best wide receiver on the board. Jarvis Landry as well. He's definitely in play. It's pretty easy on the Cleveland side of things when it comes to wide receivers. You can also possibly look at, to kind of differentiate yourself a little bit. You could possibly kind of look at a guy like Antonio Callaway. for cheap, just to kind of, like I said, mix it up a little bit. When it comes to the 49ers wide receivers, kind of where are you at with that? I mean, I know you really, really like Debo Samuels. Marquise Goodwin he's a hit or miss guy. He's the big play guy that they look to kind of, just break. I mean, he literally could just break one, and that's kind of a slate breaker right there. Talking about Goodwin. What's your thoughts on the wide receivers position?
So I haven't seen yet, but I mean, Jarvis Landry, who was in concussion protocol, doesn't have a questionable tag next to his name. So I have to assume that he's cleared all of that. They also get Antonio Callaway back. He's coming off a suspension. They have Rashard Higgins. So not only do they have Odell Beckham Jr., they've got other guys that I think you have to get exposure to in the flex spot because of the ability to make a play and the ability for Baker Mayfield to spread the ball around to all of his weapons. So, I mean, they've got guys that they can get the ball to. I think Landry is obviously the chalk spot because of not just name recognition, but as well as Odell Beckham Jr. But like I said, Antonio Callaway is a big play wide receiver. He had a couple, last year, 60-yard touchdown receptions. The guy's a big play receiver. And Rashad Higgins is a guy that they've shown from time to time can make some noise in the slot. So I think you can get exposure to all four of those wide receivers. There's only three that I really want to get exposure to when it comes to the 49ers. I do think Debo Samuel's their number one wide receiver. He's only 8,000. It allows you to do a lot with your builds. Dante Pettis is another guy. They run him in the slot. And then there's Marquise Goodwin, who we have also seen the ability to make the big play down the field, have the 60 to 80-yard touchdown pass off play action where he runs a deep slant down the middle of the field. I mean, a deep post down the middle of the field. So I think those are really the seven main wide receivers in this game. But like you said, the 49ers, they expect to have Jalen Hurd back. They expect to have Tevin Coleman back. We'll have to see how that goes when things come up. But those are other guys who could also get some limited touches and take some targets away possibly from a Dante Pettis or even, a Jeff Wilson, Matt Breida, or a guy like that. So, the 49ers look to be getting healthy. A lot of guys they could potentially spread the ball to, which means you got to kind of figure out how much exposure you're going to get to each one of those particular guys.
For sure. Just a quick note, I just want to throw out there. It's looking like Rashard Higgins isn't going to be activated tonight. That's the news that the newest news on him right now. So I mean, if that's the case, and that I like I like Callaway even more. Being the sole kind of third wide receiver out there. Moving on to tight end, I mean, you got George Kittle. He's easily the best tight end in this game by far. He hasn't, and thing about Kittle is he hasn't had a monster game this year, and it's coming. I'm not saying it's going to be today, but it is going to come. And what's your thoughts on Kittle, and do you like any of these tight ends for Cleveland?
I mean, look, the tight end, you said the wide receiver spot, the chalk is going to be Odell Beckham Jr., and that's 100% because it's Odell Beckham Jr., right? The tight end spot, the chalk is going to be George Kittle, and that's because it's George Kittle. It's also a really, really, really cheap price for George Kittle when you think about it. I mean, a guy that you can load in your captain spot, and each of the slates we've had in the first 5 weeks of the season here, I don't remember a guy being 11,000 that I wanted to put in my captain spot that was one of the top guys possibly in the game. I mean, the guy's got 21 targets through 3 games. He's got 17 catches. He's had at least 50 yards in each game. He's had, I think, 3 touchdown passes called back, 2 against against Tampa Bay, and 1 against Cincinnati for sure that I could think of. They either a hold or an illegal shift or some dumb penalty has cost him at least 3 touchdowns. So you're right. It's a matter of time, and the price of 11,000 just yields for him to be like 70% owned tonight. So, I mean, if you want to get cute and you want to differentiate yourself, I'm not sure you need to do it at the tight end spot. But by all means, that there is some, with David Njoku on the IR, there's some other spots. I just think Anthony Callaway coming back or Antonio Callaway coming back adds a complete different dimension to their offense.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you. Before we get out of here, we got to mention them. We got 2 kickers. You got Robbie Gould and you got Austin Siebert.
Yep.
I've never even heard of that guy. Which kicker you liking more?
I mean,
Toss up.
I'm going to go with Robbie Gould here. I mean, Siebert has been very active for them. 2 extra points in the first game against Tennessee. They ended up getting waxed in that game. But you look, he's had at least 2 field goal attempts in every game except the opener. So he's been active. He's had 2 10-plus point games. But Robbie Gould's very, very consistent. He's a very consistent kicker. And I think that this could be a night where there could be a lot of offense between the 20s and maybe some struggles in the red area for both these teams and some field goals that are made.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely, we love getting some kicker exposure, bro. It's an easy way to kind of differentiate yourself. So,
I think I want to say that Vinatieri made 4 field goals last night, and that went right. The 19 points that they scored, 12 points were off Vinatieri's leg, and they were mentioning that maybe he doesn't have anymore. It's time to release him, etc. He goes out and does what he does. So, anytime I think where you got some teams that struggle in the red area, you want to make sure you target those kickers, and I wouldn't have any problem putting both these guys as my captain in a couple of lineups.
for sure. So, I mean, that's really where we're at for our NFL Week 5 Monday Showdown break. Breaking down today's Monday Showdown slate. If you want to check, anything else that we got going on the site, we got NBA coming up. We still got MLB going strong. Make sure to check out the site, dfscheatsheet.com. And hey, good luck on your guys' contest tonight, all right? Peace out.